Hi, welcome to 5 Minutes of Wokeness, where we take about 5 minutes to talk about social justice issues and spread wokeness. So, this past weekend was the Grammy Awards. There were 57 years of celebrating accomplishments in music, where it's an honor just to be nominated. Or so they say. One of the nominated albums for Album of the Year was Lemonade by Beyoncé. I'm sure you've heard of it by now. The album had a wide variety of styles: country and hip-hop, rock and gospel. It was the third best-selling album of 2016, even though the album was explicitly focused on the trials and tribulations of Black women. Especially remarkable when you consider how true the words of Malcolm X that she referenced in the album are, and they continue to be. The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected woman in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. And it continues to be true because, once again, despite the fact that the album was so lauded for how groundbreaking it was, how it showed such a huge growth for Beyoncé, Adele won Album of the Year. Now, this is a problem because previously, Taylor Swift's 1989 beat Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. Mumford & Sons beat out Frank Ocean's Channel Orange several years ago. Beck beat Beyoncé for her self-titled album in 2013. There have been a lot of think pieces written about Beyoncé's most recent loss, especially given that Adele used the majority of her Album of the Year acceptance speech to praise Lemonade. I mean, there were some questions as to whether or not it was a version of performative allyship when she did that. Specifically, that is when someone goes through all the public motions in public performance of being a good ally to marginalized people, but don't do anything outside it when no one's looking. There were some discussions of whether or not it was problematic for her to request for Beyoncé to be her mommy, especially given the historical context of mammies, where Black women were essentially raising white children at the expense of their own. And Adele's statement at the press conference afterwards: what the fuck does Beyoncé have to do to win? The Grammys and other award shows and the like tend to be a pretty stark reminder of something that, well, every Black mother that I know has had to tell their child at some point. As a Black person, you're gonna have to work twice as hard and accomplish twice as much to be considered half as good as a white person. My own mother had to tell me that when I was 11, and it took me years to actually understand, because in many ways, I still believed in the pure meritocracy of the American dream. I mean, my parents had worked hard, and they were quite successful. College was an expectation for me and my siblings, not just an option. It doesn't necessarily promise us success, though. The Harvard professor and sociologist David Pegger, for example, did a study and determined that a criminal history for a white man and a clean background for a Black man put them at strikingly similar likelihoods of getting a call back for a job. The person with the criminal record will get a better chance of a callback if they're white over somebody with a clean history if they're Black. Not only that, but the National Bureau of Economic Research fellows Marion Bertrand and Senthil Mulianthan determined that job applicants with white names needed to send out about 10 resumes to get a callback. Those with African American sounding names needed to send out 15 resumes to get that callback. I want to reiterate this. It took 15 resumes for Black people to get a callback but white people, they only took 10. Having a name that shows pride and Blackness makes it difficult to get a callback. I personally have had to apply to jobs using my less ethnic middle name because the spelling and pronunciation of Kira marks me as non-white, and it's gotten me passed over for job applications. So how can we be surprised that Beyoncé's album whose overwhelming focus was on Black women and their lives, was denied for Album of the Year. Given the kind of things that Black people have to face to get anywhere in this society and culture, when we succeed, we call it Black excellence. Simply because to succeed, despite the odds that we're facing, requires us to be excellent. Oprah is referenced as the Black billionaire, but her net worth is still dwarfed by Warren Buffett's and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Michael Bloomberg and all the Walton siblings and the Kochs. We have to work twice as hard and accomplish twice as much to be considered half as good. It's an endemic problem, but we're going to keep going. We're going to keep striving because that's what we do. So like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next week as we wrap up our Black History Month segments. See you then.